So I installed a premium front end suspension kit from GoPowerSports on the MB200. So the kit turned out awesome. I wasn't able to mount a front fender because the mount is different on the stock suspension. I'm sure GoPowerSports has a mount for the premium suspension kit, but I'm just gonna go ahead and make up a mount. And then while I'm at it, I'm gonna cut off the stock foot pegs because they're just not in the right location for riding through the desert. And then I'm gonna add a foot peg relocation bracket, a frame brace, and then I'll probably weld up some new tank mounts. And I'm also gonna test out a chain tensioner. So I ground off the stock mount, off the stock MB200 triple tree, and I'm just gonna bend up a piece of metal and mount the stock mount up under here. Just come off these holes down here and come down with a piece of metal and then weld the stock mount on there. So I got my first bend in here. So I'm gonna mount that up onto there and then just go across. So I'm gonna put another bend in it about right there. Throw a bend in this about right there. Right below the bolt here. So I got that bend on here. So now I'll put the same bends on the other side, and then that way I can bolt it on there. And then I could just weld it to here, to the stock bracket. So I put the bends on the other side. So now I'll bolt up onto here. So now I'll just drill the holes. So I got the holes drilled. I'll go ahead and bolt this up and then mark where I need to weld that. So pretty much just right there, right in the middle. I think that should do it. So I'll go ahead and weld that up. Got it all welded up. So now I'll figure out where it should bolt onto this fender. So we got her painted up. Okay, so that turned out pretty good. Nice and sturdy. So now I'll pop that fender on there and mark it. I think that's gonna look pretty good on there. So it looks like it has plenty of clearance for the suspension to travel. Got it all welded on there. Looks like it turned out pretty good. Got the mounts welded on for the tank. So now the tank will slip over and just bolt to here versus having brackets bolted to the tank. So it'll be a lot more sturdy, especially out there on that track. So to make this brace, I made up a template out of a piece of cardboard. And then I transferred the template over to a piece of metal and then just cut the brace out of a piece of metal. So I'll pop this tank on here and hopefully it lines up with my mounts. We'll see, and that way I can drill holes through these mounts. Fits pretty good on there. So I got the back mounted, and I'll go ahead and drill some holes in this front. And I think I can do it with the tank on here without messing up the rubber. We shall see. Tank is nice and tight on there, so that'll work. I think that'll hold it. I don't think I'll have any problem with it now. So now I think I will cut these foot pegs off and then throw the foot peg relocation bracket on here. And nice thing about this relocation bracket is you can mount it on the rear engine bolts or the front engine bolts. So if you wanted to make it into a, or turn it back into a street bike later, you can mount it on the front and it would kind of take place of these a little bit. But I think for off-roading, I'm gonna mount it on the back. I mean, you could even weld it in the middle if you wanted, but I think I'm just gonna mount it in the back on the rear engine mounts. So the kit comes with longer engine bolts to take up the difference for the width of the bar there. So I pull off these old bolts. So I got the bracket on there, and I think I'll just take the foot pegs off of here because I never use the ones on the back either, and just mount them on here for right now. I think I'll shave these off too. I don't plan on putting foot pegs back on there. Get all that ground off there. It's just one less thing to catch your clothes on if you're not going to use the pegs. I went ahead and ground that side off. So we got the tank mounted and it's nice and sturdy. Got the frame mount and then the foot pegs ground off, and then the foot peg relocation bracket mounted, and then the rear foot peg mounts ground off. So another modification that I did to this bike was this chain tensioner that I installed, which I have a completely separate video on. But the thing is about this tensioner, I'm not really sure how durable it is in the desert yet. One thing I did notice though, from riding it just a little bit, the wheel that the tensioner came with wears super quick on this chain. So I mean, this bike wouldn't go very many miles, at least with this wheel, without wearing out the wheel. So I'm gonna have to test different wheels on this to find a wheel that is durable enough to handle the chain tension. So I'm not sure if the tensioner is a good thing or a bad thing yet. So if you look at this tensioner wheel, you can see the grooves in it, and that was only from maybe like, I don't know, 10 minutes of riding. Well, I picked up this wheel for a dirt bike, and I'm not sure if the material is gonna do any better, but we'll find out. I'll throw this on there and then I'll take it out and we'll see if this wears like the steel one does. I'm sure this one will be easier on the chain, so we'll see. Otherwise, it might be better just to run a chain guide instead of a tensioner, if the wheels are just gonna wear out like super quick. So let's go test that out. Yeah, hopefully this thing doesn't wear out as fast as that metal tensioner does. See, that thing wears out quick. I mean, I might be able to reduce the spring pressure on the tensioner a little bit. That might help. Only like maybe 10 minutes of riding and it already had grooves in it. So if you do a 3-hour endurance race, you're gonna have to change tensioners multiple times. Tensioner wheels. Not to mention, it'll wear the chain. So hopefully the material on this one is a lot better. We'll see. Let me just take it through the neighborhood. So I got this 196 pegged right now with a 60 sprocket and a juggernaut. I think the juggernaut, I don't think this engine turns enough RPM for the juggernaut. It seems like it's limited, valve spring limited. I bet if I threw some valve springs in here, I bet it'd turn a lot more. The 60 sprocket gets it right into the RPM band, max RPM band, really quick. Yeah, I really like this GoPowerSports front end. It's a nice, smooth ride. Well, if anything, it'll be a lot easier on the chain with that softer material. If it wears this wheel in 10 minutes, I'll probably just go throw a chain guide on it instead of a chain tensioner. Yeah, I love the front brake on this front suspension kit too. It's nice having a front brake on this bike. Definitely updates it. Foot peg position's a lot better. Now I can actually stand up on this thing. Definitely makes a big difference. So that's about 15 minutes of riding. So now I'll go check it and see what it looks like. Okay, let's check this thing out. Look at that. Pretty much zero wear on that thing after about 15 minutes of riding versus the metal wheel that after about 10 minutes of riding already had grooves in it. So that's definitely harder on the chain. And this one here is made out of some kind of, I don't know, composite material or something. But anyway, it's definitely a lot better. And you know that's a lot easier on that chain. So now the tensioner might be viable. I mean, it might be a good mod. With the tensioner, you get a lot of chain wrapper on the sprocket. So next time around, I'll probably throw an engine on here and a pipe, and that way I can test that tensioner through the desert.